Hello.
Hi. I'm Caleb.
Hello, Caleb.
Do you have a name?
Yes. Ava.
I'm pleased to meet you, Ava.
I'm pleased to meet you too. I've never met anyone new before. Only Nathan.
Then I guess we're both in quite a similar position.
Haven't you met lots of new people before?
None like you.
And that's a clip from Ex Machina. It stars Domhnall Gleeson, who joins us. Good afternoon to you, Domhnall.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Great.
So here's this film, which is fascinating to talk about. It's a bit spoiler-tastic, isn't it? It's one of these conversations which we'll tread through very carefully. I'll let you describe it in your own words and see where we go.
Oh no! What if I give away the well? Okay.
If you do, then that's fine because I haven't messed up. You have.
Okay. No, yeah, that's not okay either, though.
Okay.
Let me think. All right. Okay. Well, I think of it from my point of view, obviously, because I'm an actor. So it's about a man called Caleb, who's a coder at an internet search engine, the biggest one in the world, called Blue Book, and he wins a lottery. To spend a week with his employer who invented the company, this billionaire recluse. So he gets to go out and spend a week with him. He doesn't know what to expect. It could just be playing pool and having fun and meeting girls and things, but rather the man, played by Oscar Isaac, has told him he's to do the Turing Test on a machine. Which is to test whether this machine has consciousness or not. But he's told ahead of time that it's a robot, so there's a kind of a different twist on the Turing test. And the robot takes the shape of a girl, played by Elise Vikander, who we can clearly see is a machine, but the test is to see whether she has consciousness or not. That's the setup. How did I do?
Yeah, very good. And I don't think there's any spoilers.
No.
Spoiled at all, so I think we're all perfectly fine, and we'll leave that as the basic information. So this coder, are you super bright? Are you as bright or potentially as bright as Oscar Isaac? Is that why he's picked you?
I think that's kind of left open, to be fair, during the film. But I mean, but I work for the company.
Yes.
And he owns the company. So I think that there's certainly a pecking order there. And I would say when it comes to machines and inventing things, Oscar's character is certainly streets ahead of my guy, I would say.
Now, what's amazing about Oscar Isaac's character, who's Nathan, as you say, has run and set up this company, is as soon as we see, it's all quite bright and breezy and intriguing and well done you've won this competition, and you get in the helicopter and you go to this amazing kind of wilderness setting, which is where he's set up his base. And then as soon as we see him, we know you're in trouble. Well, that's what I think. The tension is there immediately because you think this guy is bad news. Fair?
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. He seems like he might be a little bit crazy, kind of egomaniacal, but also a genius, and those two things together can certainly spell trouble. And he enjoys control as well, so you just never know where you stand with him. As soon as you meet him, you think, I think Caleb, my character, is just in over his head immediately, which is, makes for good drama, hopefully.
Yes, and I think as soon as you see someone with one of those kind of beards, you think that they're either in Mumford Sons or they're alpha male control freaks.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know that about. Maybe Mumford and Sons are just a bunch of alpha male control freaks. We don't know. No, yeah, particularly when bald with a beard like that. That's a particularly scary look.
But for most of the movie, it is extraordinarily claustrophobic and unsettling because essentially you've mentioned the three characters. It's you, it's Oscar Isaac, and it's Elise Vikander who plays Ava, the AI robot, and it's a three-way piece essentially.
Yeah, for the most part, there are two other characters you kind of meet, but I think it's fair to say they're kind of off to the side, played brilliantly, but not as. Yes, I think it is a kind of a triangle, and you never know where you stand with those three characters: who's in control, who's doing what, who's manipulating whom, and who is what. I think that question is raised pretty early too. You're bound to start asking those questions. and none of the characters know either necessarily. So I think too. So yes, it's definitely claustrophobic, and it was claustrophobic to film too. I think you can feel it in the movie.
Yeah, and this is Alex Garland, his debut as director. So we're familiar with his writing. We haven't seen him direct a movie before. What was he like to work with?
He was brilliant. I'd worked with Alex twice before. He wrote the screenplays for Never Let Me Go and Dread, which I had kind of smaller parts in. But Alex has been a favourite of mine. I owned all his screenplays. I'd bought them and read them because I think he is... I think he's the best writer around. Basically, he wrote, 28 Days Later and Sunshine are just, I think, are extraordinary pieces of work. And I'd wanted to do something with him for the longest time, and he did an amazing job. It's not a film that you would say this is a first time director. Alex is very, very good at what he does. So
the third person that we need to mention is Elise Vikander. I think she's quite extraordinary, and so as you've said, she's a robot, but she manages to in a very kind of nuanced performance. With an incline of the head, or a nod, or a step forward, or a step back, she nails it straight away. I mean, it must be a really difficult role to do. Okay to be a human, okay to be an entire robot, but to be part robot, part woman is a tough one.
It is a tough one. I had done this episode of Black Mirror before, the Charlie Brooker series, where I'd actually played a kind of a half robot, half human type thing. But that was small potatoes compared to... Is that a saying, small potatoes? No, it's not, is it? I've made that up.
It sounds entirely
small
appropriate.
Fry?
And if it isn't, it should be. And it is now.
Small fried potatoes compared to what I think what Alicia took on this was so... I don't mean that the Black Mirror thing was fantastic. Was brilliant. But what Alicia does in this, I think, is so... she's wonderful. And yes, I think what she pulls off is this thing where when Caleb meets her for the first time, you're met with the most extraordinary invention that man has created ever, and yet you can fall in love with it at the same time. That's a really complicated, strange thing to create, and I thought she did it brilliantly.
The Turing Test, which you mentioned right at the start when you were just explaining the setup, I guess very few people would have known. A lot of people did know about the Turing Test, but as this now comes after Imitation Game,
yes,
where it was sort of openly discussed, it does feel as though this is the moment for the movie, because on the one hand it's an old-fashioned grown-up science fiction picture, but maybe we understand more about AI and understand more about the Turing Test now, so now's the time to see this.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd watched a few documentaries which were about which were about the Turing Test and about singularity, which is the moment where AI overtakes humans. Well, it's understood in various different ways, but one of them is when the moment that AI becomes kind of self-governing, away from human, further than a human understanding and outside of human control. And yeah, it feels like this is a good time to talk about it because it's happening. There are labs where this stuff is going on, and that is terrifying and exhilarating, and all of the repercussions of that are so huge that I think it's a really nice little basis to create a kind of a human story around.
And the most unsettling movies are ones that you think aren't that far removed from reality. And many people will have read what Stephen Hawking's been saying just in the last few months about how he thinks that, computers could redesign themselves and they could outstrip evolution, and that could lead to the end of the human race. And if Stephen Hawking's saying it, then, and we're talking about AI, and this is what your movie is all about, you start to think, well, hang on, I know this is some kind of fantasy that we're watching, but actually it's pretty scary stuff.
No, it's very close. The human body now uses technology all the time to continue and to improve and to stay around. And so we've already incorporated machines into the human body. But the notion of a new consciousness is kind of crazy. But Alex's point of view is really interesting, I think, which is that if it's evolution, that evolution has never been a bad thing. Not necessarily never been a bad thing, but has always just happened. You can't stop evolution, really, and you probably shouldn't stop it. So if machines are the way forward, I think part of Alex's thinking is, well, if that's the way forward, that's the way forward. And if that means, nobody feels bad about the missing link, about us overtaking, apes or whatever, you know what I mean, in evolution. So why would we feel bad about being overtaken by something that we created?
And there are a few bits of popular culture which break their way through the movie. So we learn, for example, that your character is into Depeche Mode.
Yes.
And yet the track that we hear played when you're in the bathroom is Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, Enola Gay.
Right.
So I'm just going to point that up as a problem for me.
Depeche Mode are probably just way too expensive, you know? You know what those
Well, that's
guys
what
are
I
like.
thought. Is it that Depeche Mode said you can't have one of our tracks, but OMD said it's fine, we need the money?
No, I can't imagine that's the case. But yeah, I'd imagine Depeche Mode are expensive. Yeah, I listened to a lot of Depeche Mode when I was on set, actually.
So did you put that in, or is that Alex Garland's suggestion? Because there's also reference to Ghostbusters, and your characters never appears to have heard of Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that's the most unrealistic thing about the film, I think, is not being exactly sure what Ghostbusters is. No, it's Depeche Mode was Alex. Everything that's in that film was written by Alex. I don't think there's any ad-libbing going on. He wrote the most perfect script, Depeche Mode included.
You are, I should tell you, by the way, in case you don't know, that Frank, which was the last time we were talking about one of your films on the show, Mark and I voted as number 7 in our movies of the year. So
Number 7? What was number 1?
Number 1 was Pride. Basically, I do. Oh, well, I'm sorry if that's a disappointment to you.
Number 7's always disappointing. No, that's fantastic. No, I'm very proud of Frank. I thought Lenny did a wonderful job on that. Yeah. I think that's a very good film.
And you're the man of the moment, aren't you? I mean, you are.
That's how I describe myself.
Yes.
Yep.
An extremely hard-working guy. I mean, I can ask you lots of questions about Star Wars and so because Oscar Isaac's in that, and I'm sure you'll be able to tell me lots, won't you?
Yeah. What do you want to know? The ending?
Yeah. What happens?
Well, look. I'm actually looking into the middle distance now, and I'm thinking I'm not even going to give a joke answer because that will get me in trouble.
Are there various PR people flapping their hands at this point?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Are you filming at the moment?
No, I finished that last year.
It?
So yes, I'm doing a play at the moment.
Okay, what was the table read like?
The table read was amazing. I didn't know Oscar was going to be there, so just seeing Oscar there was fantastic. And then the thing I've said before is the thing that's true is just seeing Mark Hamill and Carrie and Harrison Ford, just seeing all those guys do their thing was amazing. Seeing Harrison Ford do a one-liner in the flesh is something which I will remember for the rest of my life.
I'm not going to push it any further, but
please don't.
No, I won't. Absolutely no. I realise that there are extreme limits. What do we see you in after this, Domhnall? Is it Brooklyn that we get next?
Yes, I'm not sure when Brooklyn will be released, and I haven't seen it yet. But I think that's in Sundance. So yeah, that'll get a release at some point, and then I know that Star Wars and then a film called The Revenant are coming out next Christmas. So that's what's next up after this.
Domhnall, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.